Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well-known, respected professional from Miami, Florida, Mr. Grant McGaugh. Grant, welcome to the show.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Grant is the Chief Executive Officer of 5-Star BDM. He has been recognized as South Florida's top Black healthcare professional of 2019 and an African American achiever in 2020. And he hosts a podcast which is called Follow the Brand. So, Grant, before we talk about business strategies and digital marketing, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Well, my journey has been eventful, Ash, if anything else. I originally started in Omaha, Nebraska, and I attended the DeVry Institute of Technology in Kansas City, Missouri. But at the time, it was called the Missouri Institute of Technology. So I tell everyone I graduated from MIT. Which seems to have a better ring than DeVry, which is fine by me because that's exactly what the name of the school was. But I got in electrical engineering way back in the 80s, and I really loved technology and what was happening. The chipsets were just coming on board. We weren't really into personal computers at that point in time, but we were starting on that journey. And that led me all the way into the 1990s, working for big corporations like AT&T, Lucent, Avaya, and then Cisco, then CenturyLink, which became Lumen, and they got me into the data center space, which led me into today. But that's always been in business development. It's always been in sales. It's always been in marketing. It's always been engaging with people, others that were on a journey, whether they're a small business or a large enterprise, which leads me to today.
Amazing, amazing. So let's talk about business strategy first, and that's an area that you are an expert in. What, in your view, Grant, are some of the key components of a successful business strategy in today's digital age?
One of the key components, and I'll back up just a little bit. There's a lot of strategies. A lot of people can, use a lot of whiteboarding, right? Let's draw the X's and the O's, and this is how we're going to accomplish the goal. And that's one of the biggest problems that I always see is the implementation of strategy to get that desired outcome. Because there's always something else, and you know this, Ash, on the other side of the ball, right? And a lot of times businesses don't calculate or don't understand the impact of that resistance that they're going to face as they want to scale to that higher journey. Like if you're going to scale to the top of the Himalayas, you need a strategy. But what do you also need? You need a guide. I don't know too many people like, you know what, I'm just going to climb Mount Everest by myself and I'm going to be successful. But however, if you have a great guide who's been to the top of that mountain many, many, many times, the likelihood of your success and the implementation of that strategy to get you to the top of that mountain will probably be greater as far as an outcome. So I truly believe when it comes to business strategy for a lot of businesses, right now I'm focused really on the SMB market, because I have about 50,000 hours of experience in business development and branding. And a lot of people they confuse branding with marketing. It's like, what's the difference, branding and marketing? Branding is really about yourself, your self-awareness. What does that look like? So you've got to get a brand identity that's going to help you to get the right mindset that'll lead you to the correct tool sets you're going to need and the skill sets. You got to assess those skill sets in order to reach your goal. So I'll go back to what I said earlier. When it comes to business strategy, you've got to understand implementation and then what does that going to really look like so then you can back into how you're going to be successful.
Great response. And how do you approach developing a business strategy when you talk to one of your clients looking to scale up rapidly?
That's great. I'm glad you said that because that's the next step. Or first, if you've identified the right goal and you have the goal, this is what your average, your North Star looks like. You've got to clearly understand what success looks like. Number two, have you identified the right guidance? This is why a lot of corporations bring in consultants. You say, well, hey, you're the CEO of a company. Why are you bringing a consultant? Because I haven't been to the top of this particular mountain. And I need to understand the right resources that I'm going to have to bring to the table, right? So then it comes down to that third, very, very important component, which is the framework. What is your framework? What is the actual business strategy? And a lot of times you'll have a template of framework. I work through a template called the BRAVE framework. You've got to be brave. Anybody needs to be brave. If they're going to scale to the top of the Himalayas, you got to be brave, right? So what does brave look like? And I break that down into 5 different areas to help people with a framework to achieve their desired goal.
Very interesting. And, in today's data-driven decision making, what role does data play in shaping business strategies for an organization?
No, that's interesting. So let's get back down to that. When it comes to data, for me, there's several different components that you have to look like. First, let's get to that BRAVE framework, right? What does that mean? You've got to have brand identity, right? Let's define that. What does that look like? And then it goes into research. Have you done your right research? So data is going to give you the right research. If you're going to enter into a market and you're going to compete in that market and you're going to take market share, you've got to have the right data, the right understanding to identify what are the gaps in the market that you can exploit and have your value to be very visible in that market, to get speed to market, to get to your outcome quicker than if you did not. So you need great data, and that's going to get you to your assets, part of that A in that BRAVE framework. So your assets are very important. You have to accumulate what do those assets look like? Are they up to snuff to be able to achieve my goal? Because once you get to the B, brand identity, the R, you've got your research, right? Then you got your brand assets. So you're bringing that all to bear, and all those are supported by data. Then you got to make it visible. Once you've made it visible, you're in the game, right? Now you're competing, and that gets you to that E, which is you're executing. So if you're executing, you're engaging, you're evolving, and then you've got to look at the metrics to see if you're on point. And data will tell you, because data is kind of reflective, right? It's kind of like in your rear view mirror to a certain degree. So you're going to say, what did I just pass? Is this the milestone that I'm trying to reach? And if it's not, I need to make adjustments. So I use a lot of AI-driven tools, get me there, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these different data points to steer in the direction. And again, if you've got a guide, that's going to be great because they're going to let you know, like, hey, you're off point, right? You've got now a goal in mind. You understand where you're going to. You've got your framework, and then that data is going to help you stay on in the direction that you want to achieve your goal.
Very well said. Thank you. And, I didn't realize that BRAVE was an acronym for so many different words, but thank you for telling me all the 5 components of BRAVE. There's another aspect, Grant, that comes into business strategy, and that is culture, organizational culture, because culture plays a very important role. And there's this famous live culture eat strategy for breakfast. But I wanted to understand, how important is company culture when you're looking at business strategy?
Well, let's go back to what I said even in the beginning, implementation. You can have the greatest strategy in the world as it appears at that time, that snapshot in time. However, if you do not get your internal clients on board, those are your employees who are going to carry out the plan. Now, I work in the United States. We're big into football. Football is like just kicked off. We've got a couple of games now, right? And there's always, everyone goes out with a plan. You can drop the X's and the O's, and every single play ends up as a touchdown on the whiteboard. Every single one of them, like, there he goes, it's a touchdown. However, there's always a resistance on the other side of that ball, constantly. And if your team is not on board with the strategy that you have laid out, I mean, they have complete buy-in. They are an advocate for your strategy, and they're all in on implementing that strategy. You will now have greater resistance. And because you have greater internal resistance, the likelihood of you having complete success, or the time to realize the success that you're looking for, is going to be a much, much more greater. Culture is a huge component. I've been in information technology for 25 years or plus, and I've seen many, many times where you have a great product, you have a great service you're going to implement, but if you haven't brought in the right stakeholders into that particular project that you're rolling out, it can fail, and it can fail miserably, because people, number one, do not like change, right? They want to stay with the status quo because they're comfortable. And now you're making others feel uncomfortable because you're introducing something new. And if you don't guide them, going back to what I said earlier, if you don't have, you're the guide at that point. You have to guide them along that strategic journey to get to that desired goal, because they're not at the desired state now, right? So you got to take them through that. And it's a challenge because, wow, all these pitfalls, I don't see the value. So the visibility of value, and you've got to keep that in front of your culture. What are you trying to, not only internally, but the customers? Here's one more point I'll leave you with, Ash. One of the biggest mistakes also that I see with businesses is that they understand their product, they understand their service, they can speak to it for hours, but they don't understand their target audience.
Right.
And because you don't understand the target audience, you have misalignment. Because when it hits the market, when it's actually visible in the market, and all of a sudden you start getting this feedback, going back to what you said earlier about the data starts telling, hey, purple looked good on paper, but everybody likes orange. And now how do you make adjustments? You've got discord. People are like, wow, we're not getting the results, and you can have failure. So it's very, very important to first understand your audience and then have guidance to get you to your desired outcome.
Great response. There's another aspect, Grant, that I've seen with a lot of organizations, and I've faced it myself in my corporate world days. When it comes to strategy, there is the need to implement strategy that could be over a long-term vision, and yet there are short-term goals to be met. How do you advise people or leaders to balance long-term strategy with short-term goals?
Another great question that everyone comes across, and it goes back to, what is the desired goal? And do you have an agreed upon process? You have to have an agreed upon process that has milestones, that have a deliverance of value. What are the quick wins as opposed to the longer term goal attainment that you have? You have to deliver some quick wins along the goal. So that's some of your short term, right? All the CFOs out there understand, like, hey, when you invest in a project, you invest in a vision, you invest in a goal, you've got to have some kind of enjoyment at some point along that journey, because the journey could be arduous to get there, right? If you think about even what we talked about earlier, along the technological journey, we didn't just jump out of bed and get into artificial intelligence, generative AI, get into computer vision. No, it was a journey through cloud computing. It's a journey through mobile compute, social media. It goes all the way back. So if you tell someone in the very beginning, the short-term goal, right? Back in 1995, let's say, you got your first connection to the internet. You know what? You're going to be able to do telecommunications, video conferencing, and mobile compute in a moment's moment, and you'll be able to market throughout the entire world with your product and service. Now, if I told you that in 1998, you're like, what? I believe I can't wait to get going. But it's going to take 20 years to get there. You're like, what? So you've got to have value along the way.
Fascinating, fascinating. So now I'm going to move to another segment of a conversation, which is another specialization you have, which is in digital marketing. And my question for you, first question is, how has digital marketing evolved over the past few years, and what do you see as its future?
Oh man, I love digital marketing. If you start looking at, especially in the United States, what
Mm,
are the top 10, 20 companies on the NASDAQ and what do they do? And I
mm,
guarantee you a lot of them have a digital first
mm,
component. You look
mm.
at your Airbnbs, your Ubers, you can go on and on and
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
Amazons of the world. These are digital platforms. These
Mm,
did not exist until you had an actual digital platform like a cloud compute model, something like that. You could never have done that. Now you can. So you have to have a content first strategy.
mm,
And the scale, the speed to market is exponential when utilizing digital marketing tools. I
mm,
tell people all the time, yes, you can still email and you can make phone calls and you can do in-person meetings, but you've got to put something on top of that, that content marketing strategy.
mm,
And someone said, well, I don't, isn't that just more work? Like, think about this. Think
mm,
about that. And you understand this, Ash. As we are now on this podcast, we're doing this real time.
mm.
So, okay, that's a moment in time, a snapshot in time, 20, 30 minutes of time that we pull together this content and we give value to our audience. Well,
Right.
guess what? That particular value,
Mm,
because you're promoting it constantly, lives on for not only a week, a month, a year, years. So it's constantly selling on my behalf the values that we're talking about. Whereas, how many times do you go back and read an email that you
mm,
did 2 days ago,
mm,
or at a customer meeting or any of these other times? So you have something that stays in the market, sticky in the market
mm.
for who knows how long, because
Yeah.
it's in the digital world. So digital content marketing is king. We have to be on top of it, and we've got to utilize it to our fullest.
And therefore, a follow-up question for you, Grant, is based on your experience, what have you seen as some of the common mistakes a lot of businesses make when it comes to digital marketing?
The biggest mistake is that they just stay where they're at. They feel the status quo is going to somehow shield them from advancement.
Mm,
And so you can have, and a lot of people prefer this analogy. Yeah, you could still sit there and rent videotapes if you want to, if you're Blockbuster. But however, Netflix, who was your competitor, used to do something somewhat similar. They
mm,
changed their business model. As far as I can tell, they're still big time streaming,
mm,
on our digital platform. So you start looking at that. Look how network television is changing.
mm,
What we're doing right now used to cost a gazillion dollars, right? So if you didn't change and you didn't pivot and you stayed in your own silo of experience,
mm,
understanding that time waits for no one,
mm,
right? And
mm,
then you have now a audience
mm,
of millennials and younger who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and their experience is a digital first experience. I'm going to
mm,
look for search and social first. And if you're not there, you're like, well, I'll send you an email. All right, that's there. But if I don't know you, not really looking at your email, right? Phone call, good luck getting through with phone calls
yeah.
these days. And everyone, if you're not in my database, I'm not taking a phone call for somebody. You might leave a voicemail, I might get back to you. But those things only work. You can still email, you can still phone call, you can still knock on somebody's door. But if they know you, it's a lot easier to
Mm.
scale than if they don't know you. Content marketing allows you to become visible, become known, become liked, and trusted within your niche that you're working in.
Very well said. So, I have time for two more questions for you. Uh, how do you see AI and automation shaping the future of digital marketing? And you did touch on AI a few minutes ago as well.
Yeah, man, that's such a game changer in so many aspects of our life. We are at, look at, I would say this like this, look how the telephone, just the telephone,
Hmm,
changed the human experience. Then look how the computer, from a personal computer standpoint,
hmm,
especially change the human experience.
Mm.
And then you layer on internet on top of that. So that connectivity just got exponential, right? And the ability to not just have audio, but then video along that. So now you've got the transference of experience at a global scale that we've never had before. Now you start looking at artificial intelligence. And this is what I call the biggest journey that we'll probably see for a long time. This is a leap in technological platform. We're going from information technology, something you said earlier, data driven, right? But it's reactive. It's like a snapshot in time. It's like looking in the rear view mirror, but looking forward into the present and into the future. We start getting into artificial intelligence that is intelligent technology, and it's starting to bring in computer vision AI. People haven't seen a lot of that yet.
Yeah.
It's coming. You get into what we call causal AI. So what does that mean? That means go back to what you looked at in the world of Star Wars. Go back and look at the worlds of Star Trek, some of our science fiction and our imagination, how we're interacting with intelligent machines in order to accomplish a journey or a goal or whatever obstacles in our way. This is what's happening. So your machine is actually giving you very good information, intelligent input, being able to automate menial tasks. It doesn't replace the human component, it enhances it. So now you're human, now you become superhuman, right? That's what the whole science fiction thing is about, right? That you swallow this pill and you become superhuman. Yeah. Well, as we consume AI and ML, and we get into quantum, and we get into all these other things that are coming out relatively in a short period of time, our human experience is going to be radically different from what it was even a few years ago.
Well said. And my last question to you, Grant. What, in your view, are some of the critical digital marketing trends that business leaders should focus on in the next couple of years?
Biggest thing you've got to get into right now, if you're not into it, you've got to be in a video first mode. It's about, 81% of small businesses fail because their value is not visible, or it's only visible in a very, very small sphere of influence. You got to get out of that sphere and get into the entirety of what's possible. Having a video first methodology and strategy is going to expand your markets and make you more bold. You're going to make you more resilient. It's going to make you more authentic. You're going to be more visible, right? And more engaged. Going back to my BRAVE framework.
Yeah.
All of those things are important. And if you're not doing that and you are behind the 8 ball, you are playing in a blockbuster world that's Netflix enabled.
Wow, what a way to explain this. Thank you. And on that note, Grant, thank you so much for talking to me about your journey. I think we covered a lot of ground in business strategy, and you had some amazing points. I loved your BRAVE framework. I think that was a very powerful set of 5 words that you explained to us. And I'm sure my viewers and listeners will hear that over and over again, because every word means so much. Thank you also for speaking to me about digital marketing, some of the trends, and where people tend to make mistakes and how these can be handled. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Pleasure's all mine, Ash. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.